Okay, this is part 4 of Parkinson's disease in 2025. So one of the things they'll say, smoking tobacco can decrease Parkinson's disease. I think that's BS, okay? Uh, Big corporations can do all kinds of stuff to distort research results and get people to say things. I don't believe it. All right. Then they're also going to tell you caffeine decreases Parkinson's disease. BS. Caffeine ends up being a burden on neurons because it not only increases glutamate, it increases the stress hormones, catecholamines and cortisol. So the cortisol is going to increase glutamate release at the neurotransmitter synapses. That means it's going to create more work for the neurons, the one sending the glutamate, the one receiving the glutamate. So you're increasing the workload. It simultaneously is a vasoconstrictor to the brain. Okay, so it's going to drop oxygen and glucose delivery. So if you increase metabolic rate while dropping oxygen and glucose delivery, that's not good for brain cells. Okay, it's an excitotoxic mechanism with a dilatory hypoperfusion mechanism. That is bad for brain cells. It also induces insomnia. Lack of sleep worsens healing in the brain, increases the risk of brain cells dying. So I don't buy it. I'm gonna bet you there's some corporate involvement, and I would not buy those results because there are people who tell Parkinson's patients, "Oh, it's good to have caffeine." I don't think that's true. Okay, they say tea decreases peripheral arterial disease, but concentrates fluoride, bad. Can concentrate aluminum, bad. Tea's bogus. I would stay away from it. It often has microplastics in it. And they always primarily just talk about pharmacology when they talk about treatment. All we got is levodopa. You're on your own. There's actually more you can do. And you got to watch out. There's what I call agnotology. It's a desire to make people ignorant. That's very much promoted by corporations, and a lot of times, it's just taught in conventional medical schools, so they don't know what they're talking about. We already talked about most Parky patients have more than one disease, suggesting there might be some bigger underlying mechanism. Okay. All right, now how do you treat Parkinson's patients? Okay, yeah, sure, levodopa can help them for a while. It doesn't really change the course of the disease, but gives them better motor function while it works. Eventually it stops working, and then they'll often go for deep brain stimulation. Okay, fine, but there's things you can do in the interim. Optimize your diet, low-fat vegan with no oil. Exercise a lot. You'll get some mitochondrial biogenesis, some neurogenesis. 1 mile of walking is about 2,200 steps. I think it's a good idea to try to walk at least about 4 miles a day if you can. I realize a lot of us work in, indoor desk jobs and it's hard to walk, but try to walk to the extent you can. Park your car far when you're at work, okay? At night when I floss my teeth, I walk around in circles for about 20 minutes to a half hour. Just keep doing little things to get that extra walking. Take the stairs instead of the elevator. You can even get a step counter if you want. You don't have to do that. I don't have one of those, but I know people who do that. Another benefit of low-fat diets is a lot of these toxins are stored in the fat, the ones especially that can cross the blood-brain barrier, and the worst is in animal fat. So why not don't eat any animal fat? Be a vegan. Antioxidants, they come from plant foods. Fiber, which prevents leaky gut, comes from plant foods. There's no fiber in meat. Organic vegan diet, yeah, like I said, you want to avoid all these pesticides, atrazine, glyphosate, all in mitochondria inhibitors, arsenic, rotenone, paraquat. Bad. These guys, Okun and Dorsey, in that book, Parkinson's Plan, they recommend you rinse your food even if it's organic. I still would rinse my salad even if it's organic. Olson and Dorsey, they recommend don't go to a grocery store if it's next to dry cleaners. I think that's good advice, okay? Because the dry cleaner chemicals, TCE, PCE, can go through the wall and get into the grocery store. Not good. Filter your water to avoid aluminum, fluoride, atrazine, pesticides. Those are all bad destroyers of mitochondria. Take good care of your teeth. Avoid sweets so you don't end up with mercury amalgams, and then the amalgam can go up into your brain and damage mitochondria. In general, you want to avoid anything that smells bad. So don't live on a busy street if you can. Don't live next to a big factory or a coal-burning electrical plant. Don't be spraying crap on yourself. You don't need deodorant. You don't need to spray anything else on yourself. Anything that smells bad will often be a SERCA inhibitor, sarcoplasm, endoplasmic reticulum, calcium ATPase, which is related to pumping calcium out of the cytoplasm into the endoplasmic reticulum to reduce cytoplasmic calcium and thus, slow down the cell, let it rest. Sunshine is good for you, good for mitochondria. getting your sleep. The brain cleans itself at night, so try to get your sleep. A lot of little tricks you can do to try to improve your sleep. I showed you my yellow glasses. You can wear these at night when you're on a computer, so you minimize blue light, which your brain will perceive as daytime, and thus reduce melatonin production in the pineal gland. So those can help. Using low wattage bulbs instead of bright wattage bulbs. Put a little lamp on the ground, because like a fire, which the light comes from the ground, goes to the top of your retina, that's not very sensitive. But if the sunlight comes from above, it hits the bottom part of your retina, and that part of your eye is highly sensitive to, say, it's daytime, and thus reduce your melatonin production in your pineal gland and your brain. The low wattage bulbs are less bright. Avoid blue lights if you can. Your computer, your cell phone, try to turn them off. The sooner the better, and go to bed. Usually going to bed earlier is the key thing to getting more sleep. We usually wake up at the same time. Exercise a lot. When you exercise a lot, you build up a sleep drive, and a desire of the body to sleep. And so you'll sleep better. You'll have less wake-ups to void. Don't drink a bunch of liquid right before you go to bed, so you're less likely to wake up to void. Try to manage your stress. That sometimes has been a problem for me, because you got to manage your stress so you can sleep better. Otherwise, you get a sympathetic autonomic nerve activation, catecholamine and cortisol, and you don't sleep as well. Avoid all the mitochondrial inhibitors. I don't have them in this lecture, but I've given other lectures. Like a good lecture would be my mitochondrial lecture or my AFib lecture over at VegSource. I got them here too, my newsletter on mitochondrial inhibitors. There's tons of them. I made a whole list of them. You can't find that anywhere else. I made a list of like over 110 of them. And they're in my book too, in my Prevent and Reverse Atrial Fibrillation and Congestive Heart Failure book. I have them all listed in there. Okay, I got a couple more causes of Parkinson's. I'm going to go on this next page. Okay, here it is. What causes Parkinson's? You want to avoid all this stuff. We talked about all these mitochondrial toxins, so you got to eat organic. You want to avoid alcohol. All alcohol is bad for your brain. All alcohol is directly neurotoxic, but also the wine is often sprayed with paraquat on the grapes. There's toxins in beer that are increased risk of, I think it's harmine or something it's called, increased risk of Parkinson's. All these excitotoxins are bad for your brain cells, increase the risk of brain cell death. MSG, MFG, aspartame, BAP, beta amyloid protein from high-fat diets. We talked about EMF, SERCA inhibitors, PMCA, NCX inhibitors, like aluminum. That's in most tap water. Excuse me. Tissue hypoxia, just from smoking cigarettes, having diabetes and hypertension, bad, high-fat diets. Marijuana, it's also marijuana. You cigarette smokes, you burn holes in the lung. If you smoke marijuana frequently, you can do the same thing. Sleep apnea. Animal foods, concentrating fat soluble toxins and pesticides. High-fat diets cause type 2 diabetes. That's toxic to your brain and your substantia nigra. They got glucose type 4 transporters in your substantia nigra. Lysosome toxins. The main one that I'm aware of is omega-6 cooking oils, because it sets off a sequence of reactions leading to toxic aldehydes like hydroxynonenal, and that damages your heat shock proteins, and they stabilize your lysosomes, so your lysosomes will burst and then the brain cell will die. And that's why that Japanese guy, Tetsumori Yamashima, thinks cooking oils are causing dementia, and they're also causing obesity that's largely irreversible, because they destroy the hunger center in the hypothalamus, the arcuate nucleus, in his research. Excessive psychological stress, lack of sleep, we talked about that. Caffeine's kind of like the same thing, increasing the stress response, catecholamines and cortisol. Being sedentary, a lack of exercise. You want that exercise-induced mitochondrial biogenesis and neurogenesis. You want that exercise-induced sleep drive, so you sleep better. Parkinson's can be from drug side effects, like a tardive dyskinesia from antipsychotic medicines. Okay, inhaling toxic chemicals. We talked about trichloroethylene, perchloroethylene, TCE, PCE, aluminum from deodorant sprays. Cleaning chemicals can be, mildly neurotoxic. Inhaling diesel exhaust, car exhaust. Being iron overloaded in your blood. Possibly cadmium from car brakes, one of them articles said. Air fresheners, pesticides, herbicides, coal-burning electrical plants. Car factory workers can run into problems with the decreasing chemicals. Are often like TCE, PCA, neurotoxic. Liquid paper is neurotoxic. Leather makers, neurotoxic. Anything that smells really bad is probably bad for your brain. Your brain's telling you it's bad with the bad smell. Okay, welders from manganese in particular, farmers from herbicide, pesticide exposure. Be careful of things that are designed to be like insecticides or herbicides, like a flea collar is neurotoxic, ant spray is neurotoxic. Golf courses, they spray a lot of stuff on that grass, like atrazine and who knows what else, which is neurotoxic. Gardeners and landscapers have an increased risk of these diseases. Head trauma increases your vulnerability of your brain to excitotoxicity and other brain diseases like these. Burning treated wood, if there's like pesticides in there. Metal toxicity, we talked about all that. Let's see. Leaky gut, you can not only get amyloid clots through a hypoxic mechanism, you can also get microglia activation with leaky gut, LPS, LTA getting access to the brain. Just general things that worsen brain function would be like hypothyroid, chronic kidney disease. They're going to, just decrease your baseline to resist all this stuff. Okay, here's a whole bunch of references, which one are especially useful. I do think, like I said, that Oakland-Dorsey book was good. Oops, I'm going to grab this guy. Let's see. Trying to get myself out of the way here. Diabetes risk. Yeah, they're just papers. So if you want it, those are some of the papers. I'm not really interested in going into all that right now. I don't see anything too useful there. Oh, and just one point I'd make is mitochondria are really sort of the center of most things. Oh, my thing is falling off here. Mitochondria destruction is associated with aging. Mitochondria destruction is associated with fatigue when it's mild. Diabetes is due to mitochondrial inhibition. Cancer, Warburg effect, switching to anaerobic metabolism due to mitochondria-induced injury by hypoxia. Excitotoxicity, cognitive decline, my supply and demand theory of brain degeneration. Parkinson's disease, ACLS also can be occurred due to mitochondrial injury. So all the stuff about mitochondrial injury is super important. I can tell you I have some friends that are like some of the smartest internal medicine doctors you'll ever meet. And what they say to me is, Pete, we know you're right, man. We know that we should really be focusing on mitochondria inhibitors. Healthy diet, avoiding toxins, and protecting the mitochondria, that's what health's all about. That's what we should be focusing on. And I say to them, well, why don't you invite me to talk? They're like, oh, we can't do that. Because you don't promote drugs. Anyways, that's it for part 4 on Parkinson's. So if I had Parkinson's, I would avoid all those mitochondria inhibitors. I would get the exercise, improve the sleep, and just try to be as healthy as possible so the body will be able to hang on better and avoid all that stuff, tons of stuff. You got to be a little bit of a boy in the bubble, but just be careful. If you see a problem, deal with it by avoiding it. I hope you found that helpful.